What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Vick Almighty. For today's restoration is a special one. This shoe right here is what started it all for me. The 2009 Space Jam 11s is the very first sneaker I ever restored. Back at the end of 2009 when they came out, I struck out on them. I was in Mexico at the time. So when I came back, I went straight to Foot Locker thinking I could get a pair. They were completely sold out. At that point, I did not have the money to pay resale, so it was what it was. My good friend from high school, Ezra, did get a pair for retail. He wore them for a few months straight to the point where the soles were starting to yellow, they were dirty all around, creasing. After a few months of wear and tear, he eventually sold them to me for a great price. At that point, I had a pair of Space Jam 11s, but they were in used condition. I went on YouTube. At the time, there was only like 3 or 4 YouTube videos on how to restore sneakers. There was one on how to remove yellowing from 11s. I spent like a good 2 months trying to remove the yellowing. I spent forever trying to remove every little piece of grime from the sole. It was a very satisfying process. If it wasn't for that shoe and getting the satisfaction of restoring that sneaker, I wouldn't be here today. I sold that pair a long time ago. I haven't had a pair since. On eBay, I finally came up on a pair for a great price. Came with OG all, box, cover, shoe horns. Sneakers are in great condition. They're just pretty dirty and yellowed. In this episode, I'm gonna show you guys how to bring them back to life by giving them a good deep clean, removing yellowing, and giving the shoes a full glue job to make them wearable once again. So let's get to work. So like I mentioned, these are from 2009, making them about 15 years old. Age has caught up to them. As you can see on the soles, due to wear and tear and age, they are super yellow. At one point, this was completely clear. Another thing to point out is the shoe is not wearable. If I was to wear them as is, they will separate all around. The glue is completely dried out on the midsole and the soles. This happens to older shoes. The first step in this restoration process is to give these shoes a good deep clean, soles, midsoles, and uppers. After that, I'm gonna take care of the yellowing on the soles. That by far is gonna be the most time-consuming process of this restoration, so I gotta jump on it ASAP. Let's take out the laces, insoles, shoe trees, and start separating everything, including midsoles and soles. Everything's fully separated. Over here, we got the air units that was inside the midsoles. Just by feeling it out, I can tell that there's a crack somewhere in the air unit. It's pretty flat. I'm gonna replace these. Even if they were not flat, I will still replace them anyway. They're on the older side. I wouldn't wanna put them back in and risk them popping a year later. The next step before we get to the restoration side of things, we gotta do a deep clean on these sneakers. These shoes are from 2009. I wouldn't recommend putting the shoe in the washing machine. Plus, the shoe's in really good condition, it would be overkill. By spending some good time on some prep work and using our Reshoevn8r Essential Shoe Cleaning Kit, I should be able to get these shoes back to brand new looking. First, I'm gonna go next door and use the compressor to remove all the surface dust and debris all around the sneaker. Prep work's complete, made a big difference. The cleaning's gonna be so much easier, especially on the uppers. Now I'm gonna be using our Essential Shoe Cleaning Kit with a few other Reshoevn8r tools to make this cleaning successful. I got our mat to keep everything nice and clean, dry rack and bolt combo. I will be using the washing machine, but not for the shoes, soles, or midsoles, only for the laces and insoles to make sure I get a good deep clean on those two parts. First things first, I'm gonna grab our shoe trees, adjust them in size, insert them inside the shoes to eliminate any creasing. Next, I'm gonna grab our 4-ounce bottle solution that comes with the kit, squirt 2 squirts inside the bowl of water. 2 squirts is all you need. To start this cleaning process, I'll be using a soft bristle brush on the uppers. Like I mentioned, I did a good job with the compressor. The uppers look great. I'm giving the shoe a pass over all around in a circular motion and patting it down dry as I go. Uppers are good to go. While I'm using the soft bristle brush, let's take care of the insoles and the laces. I'm gonna be using the leftover water and solution. Reshoevn8r laundry bag. Let's put this stuff inside, get it out the way. Once I'm done with the cleaning, I'll put this in the washing machine. Next, let's move on to the midsoles. This one's not gonna do the trick. Onto the medium bristle. Midsoles are back to fully white. In just a second, I'll go to the sink and rinse these out. Next part, the outsoles. Before I can remove the yellowing, these gotta be as clean as possible to get the best results. I could use a slip bristle brush, it'll do the job just fine, but I wanna make sure every little piece of dirt is fully out, and I don't wanna break my back doing it, so I'm gonna be using a brass bristle brush to get the job done. Cleaning is complete, I'm feeling good about this one, everything's looking great. Now, I'm gonna go to the sink, rinse these pieces out, then while I'm over there, put this in the washing machine. All right, now to complete this process, I got the pot inside. Let's put it inside the washing machine. I'm gonna just stick with the cold water and regular cycle. Cleaning is complete. Uppers, midsoles, and soles turn out great. Now for the soles, we have a clean base to work with. all of this yellowing's gotta come out. I'm gonna try my best to get these as icy as possible. Back in 2009 when these first came out, they didn't even have a blue tint. It was straight up icy clear. I'm gonna try my best to get it to that point. We'll see. A lot of the yellowing on this specific sole is due to age, not wear, so I have a pretty good chance of getting some great results. When it comes to yellowing on soles, they're all different. If you have heavy yellowing from deep wear and tear, there's a good chance you're never gonna get it back to its original state. You might get some of the yellowing out, but overall, that yellowing is there to stay. Now, if you have a dead stock shoe that's never been worn but has yellowing, that yellowing comes out extremely easy. Within 1 or 2 days of using a Reshoevn8r Revive and the Vick 2000, you'll get great results. For this specific case, I'm pretty sure it's gonna take a good 3 to 5 days, possibly more, to get the results I need. A couple things need to happen though. Before I can apply the Revive, I gotta tape off the traction pods for a couple different reasons. For one, you don't wanna lose any grip. 2, this stuff is pretty harsh. Sometimes if you put too much Revive or it just sits on there for way too many days, the color will start to fade or eat away at the material. So make sure to take your time and tape it off. I'm gonna show you guys real quick how to do so. It's super easy. All you need is tape, grab several strips, just place it right on the pod. Doesn't have to be perfect. All right, once you cover up the entire pod, you just wanna go over all the edges with your thumb, just so you can see the print. Next, you'll just grab a sharp blade and just slice off the excess tape. For the soles, they are going to be sitting in there for a few days, so in the meantime, we have a lot of work to do on the uppers and the midsoles. I got to remove all the old glue before I can think about applying new glue. As far as the uppers go, there's only one method you can use to remove all this old glue. You definitely do not want to use acetone or cotton balls. If you do so, you're going to ruin the patent leather. You also don't want to go straight to dremeling. If you do so, all you're going to be doing is smearing the glue and not really removing it. The only way to get it off is by using a blade and carefully shaving off that thin layer. As you can see over here, it's already fully prepped. On this side, it still needs work to go. You can see the difference when you compare them. Now for this process, we are gonna be doing the Skivey method. Using a blade, we're carefully gonna be shaving off that thin layer of glue. A couple different things. You wanna make sure the blade stays sharp throughout this entire process. After a few slices, you're gonna notice that the blade gets dull. At that point, switch it out for another one. It makes your life a lot easier. You also wanna take your time. You do not wanna cut too deep into the material and shave off too much. You also wanna stay away from the patent leather. Let me show you this process. Another thing you wanna do is tape up your finger. Every now and then, as you're doing this, your index finger gets pretty close to where you're cutting. The last thing you want to do is slip and slice your finger. Trust me, it's happened to me before. All right, good to go with that process. Old glue is fully shaved off. Now to finish the prep work on the uppers, we're gonna move on to the Dremel. I'm gonna be using a 60 grit sanding bit to go over the entire area to roughen up the material in order for that glue to adhere nicely. Prep is fully complete on the uppers. Those are ready for glue. Now, onto the midsoles. For this process, I will not be using a Dremel. You don't want to use that. It'll ruin the midsoles. All you need is acetone and cotton balls. As you can see, I took care of one already. On the before, that white layer is that old glue. All of that's got to come off to get it to this point, nice and clean. Same thing on the opposite side. All that old glue's got to come off before we can move on to replacing the air unit. Prep is fully complete on the uppers and midsoles. I just gotta take care of the soles. I'm gonna leave those in there for one more night. Tomorrow morning, I'll take them out. In the meantime, I'm gonna do some work on these insoles. These are in great condition. They're fully cleaned up thanks to our laundry system. The only thing that's missing is a Jumpman on the bottom on both of them. It's supposed to have a royal blue Jumpman, but like always, after a few wears, it comes right off. Since these and the shoes are in great condition, I'm gonna replace those using the Cricut, some blue vinyl. I have the Jumpman file right here. I also have another size 9 insole from that era. I'm gonna measure the insole to make sure my measurement's on point. All right, that's about 1.5 inches width. That's all I need. Jumpman's nicely lined up using some vinyl tape. I'm using a small iron to apply the iron-on vinyl onto the insole. All I need is a little bit of heat. When it's ready, I'm gonna let it cool down so I can peel it. All right, it's the next day. I got the soles out of the Vick 2000. This right here is probably some of the best work yet that the Vick 2000 and our Soul Revive has done. Check this out, you guys. This sole is back to brand new. This is exactly how it looked back in 2009. Clear, icy, no yellowing at all. Perfect. To get these results, it took me about 6 days. Every single day, I would apply a new coat of Soul Revive, let it sit there for 24 hours. The following day, I would apply some more. The tape did a great job protecting the pods. The color's still there, traction is still fully there as well. Now, all this has to do is use some acetone and cotton balls to finish prepping the soles. All that old glue is still on there, it's gotta come off. One quick thing I do want to point out though, earlier I mentioned that icy soles every now and then get a weird black stain for whatever reason. I pointed out a couple different ones on these soles. Originally there was a pretty bad one on this side. If you look closely, completely gone. On the opposite sole, there was an even bigger one on the outside. If you look closely, it's barely there. Honestly, I was not expecting that. I've never gotten results this good where those black marks have came off. The trick to it, I believe, was using the Vick 2000, Soul Revive. One thing I also did off camera though, I grabbed some 320 grit sandpaper and I went over those areas and sanded them down on both sides. It didn't remove the black at all, but it basically removed a thin layer of that rubber. I believe it allowed the Soul Revive to penetrate the rubber to remove some of that marking. On one of the soles, it came out completely. On this one, I feel like if I would have left it for a few more days, I could have probably got it out. It's mostly gone. I'm happy with the results. If you're doing this at home, I recommend doing a little bit of sanding. I'm not exactly sure if you have to sand the outside and inside to get these results. I'll continue to test this out in the future. Let's get the prepping done. Now before I can lay down the glue, I gotta replace the air units on the 11s. There's a couple ways I can fix this. I can go online, possibly on Etsy, and find some replacements, or get a used pair of 11s, relatively on the newer side, open them up, and take the air units out as donors. What I'm gonna do is use some EVA foam. It's a lot cheaper, and in my opinion, a lot more comfortable. Plus, on the long run, if I was to replace these air units with another set of air units, over time, they're just gonna give out, lose air, or crumble. So in my opinion, EVA foam is the best way to go. It's comfortable, it's gonna last a long time, and it's a good replacement. For this, I'll be using 5mm foam. I'm gonna lay these down, trace them out, then cut them. Replacement air units are fully cut out. I'm gonna start by laying down glue on this part and on the sole. Let it cure for about 15 minutes. I'll bond them together. After that, I'm gonna do some dremeling to make sure everything fits perfectly so I can lay down the rest of the glue on the soles, midsoles, and the uppers. I'm gonna bond these together. I'm gonna get these in place and then heat it up. Now that the EVA foam's been applied, I'm gonna do some dremeling. That way the upper fits nicely on the sole. All right, finally, we're good to go. Let's lay down some glue. I'm gonna be using Bar Super Stick as always. I'll lay it down with a paintbrush. I'm gonna lay down a thin coat on the soles, both sides of the midsole and the uppers. Let it sit for a while before we bond everything together. Glue's been applied, it's cured for a few hours. At the moment, the glue is not tacky. In order to activate it, we need some heat. Very little though. Perfect bond job with the soles and the midsoles. Take your time with this process, it's key. Now we're gonna move on to the uppers. I'm gonna start with the back, jump to the front, then do the sides. We are using the original midsole with these uppers, so everything should line up nicely. Bonding is complete, you guys. This restoration is basically done. These look freaking good. Check out the soles. From a distance, it looks like the soles are not even on. That's how clear they look. Now I'm gonna take care of some details before I wrap it up. On the inside, there is some lint on the sock liner. I'm gonna use a lint shaver. Back in the day when I first did this restoration, the original tool I used was a Vick razor. I just went in there and just shaved it all off. That's before I discovered the lint shaver. Afterwards, I'm gonna give the upper and the midsole a good wipe down using a Reshoevn8r wipe to get it ready for the next step. Now I'm gonna lace them up. Afterwards, I'm gonna give the patent leather a mirror-like finish using our mink oil. I'm gonna apply a little bit onto the microfiber towel and buff it on. Alright guys, that's gonna bring us to an end on this full restoration on these 2009 Space Jam 11s. I'm super glad I had this shoe back in my collection. It's a shoe that started it all for me. Without the 2009 Space Jams, who knows, I might not be here today. As far as this restoration goes, it couldn't have gone any better. Check out these soles, you guys. I have not seen a pair of Space Jams this size in a long time. Probably the last time was literally when they came out back in 2009. When I first worked on the sneaker in 2010, there was some things I did differently. Like I mentioned, I used an old razor to remove all the lint from the sock liner. Nowadays, I always use a lint shaver. For the soles, back then, Sole Revive did not exist, so there was a product called Sea Glow. Everybody was using it. I'm not sure if people still use it nowadays, but it's a boat cleaner. I used to get some decent results. The thing is, you will lose so much traction on the soles, making them extremely slippery. I mentioned when I did this restoration originally, it took me about a month, maybe 2 months. What took me the longest was getting the soles all cleaned up. In the video, I used a brass bristle brush. Took me about 15 minutes worth of work to get it all cleaned up. Back then, I didn't even know about a brass bristle. I literally sat there for a couple of weeks with some cotton swabs and acetone, just trying to get all the grime off from the little grooves. The rest of the time, I had the shoe sitting on my roof with some Sea Glow and the sun to remove the oxidation. Took me about a month to get rid of all the yellowing, and even then, didn't even look as good as this. Looking back on it, it's really cool to see the progression in techniques and tools that I use today. This sneaker is gonna look beautiful in my collection with my original 2000 Space Jam Retro. I've never worn this sneaker. They're both size 9. I'm gonna display these right next to each other. I do need the 2016s, but at the same time, I'm not a big fan of them. The 45 in the back throws it off for me. It's been about 9 years since they released the last retro. We're due for a new one. For this restoration, you guys, all the techniques and tools can be applied to any other Jordan 11 restoration. The key is to take your time. You can find all the products that I use today in this restoration at Reshoevn8r.com. Use promo code SpaceJam20 to save 20% on your next order. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll catch you guys on the next one. See you guys.